Sanders Place is a collaboration between NMBW, Openwork, Landscape and Finding Infinity, and it's a co-working space in Richmond. We acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which this project takes place and pay our respect to their elders, past, present and emerging. The project's located on the edge of residential and commercial precincts next to the fast-growing area of Cremorne. The clients came to us with a two-storey 1970s factory building with 100% site coverage and car-dominated frontages. They wanted to create a workplace that felt more like a home than an office and which generated more energy than it consumed. In their own words, it was a space for people working on bettering the world in their own unique way. These are some of the sort of car crossovers and laneway crossovers of the existing condition. Our design response was not to add but to subtract courtyard spaces to provide internal amenity. The corners and centre of the site were given over to landscape and the edges eroded to repair relationships with surroundings. An early plan shows the new courtyards in relation to the green space of the neighbouring residential backyards. And the front of the building cut back and eroded from its 100% site coverage. The front car spaces are turned into domestic scale gardens, and the laneway delivery bay becomes a north-facing kitchen courtyard. Here you can see just at the end of construction. Our approach to the new work environment was to fill the building with light and vegetation, making a range of different scaled workspaces with great amenity, with the social heart on the ground floor being a large kitchen sized to host proper dinners with a pantry and opening onto a laneway courtyard. The kitchen was a really important part of the brief to sort of the glue that holds the community together. This is an early, just after construction, the north-facing laneway. So here's the plan of the ground floor. You can see the kitchen number 7 in the top middle, new lift, new unisex toilets with lots of northern light, the corner courtyards cut away and the central garden with stair. And on the upper levels is a series of enclosed meeting rooms and Zoom rooms with sort of niches of space for different work teams. Here are these kind of niches of enclosed and open space upstairs around the central void. The meeting rooms are acoustically and thermally sealed and conditioned to a different level than the rest of the space, which allows for a more efficient heating and cooling system and more flexibility in this central open work area. All the new walls are wrapped and taped to a high level of air tightness, and as the building is right on the boundary, external walls are lined internally with new insulation, airtight wrap and double glazed windows. New surfaces are threaded through existing trusses, and a greenhouse shade cloth provides a retractable internal shade layer for hotter days. The new roof hosts the large solar system and equipment, which Ross will talk about. Here you can see the double height space with the new lift, the central courtyard, garden and the series of clerestories that are strategically located either facing south or north with openable skylights, depending on the internal function. The process of demolition and rebuilding created a new expression through careful cutting, stacking and reusing of materials to make the new voids. Concrete cores and bricks were all reused in the landscape. You can see the process of cutting the floor by the landscape contractors. There you can see the large and small concrete cores in the ground. A large timber floor that had to be removed provided plywood lining to new internal walls reused on the ground floor, covering the insulated space. And Oregon timber for seating benches designed by a local furniture maker. The landscape to the kitchen garden is edible and compost is collected directly. Front gardens give back to the street and store water for reuse. Planting has been deliberately pushed to the edge of the site, providing a new human scale to the street and lane. The fence becomes a place of exchange rather than a barrier.
Cool. So, at the risk of sounding repetitive, after presenting to you guys earlier this morning, it's intentionally a little bit repetitive because this is the sister project and the same client who I presented this morning. But this is a commercial version of what we see as an example of what we need as policy in retrofit. So, once again, $100 billion transformation, 55 bill in retrofit, electrifying buildings, solar on buildings, energy efficiency upgrades. Let's have a crack at getting one up. There's a lot of talk about this stuff for me, the Property Council, the Green Building Council, neighbours, everyone's talking about it. I think, to me, the idea of this was let's maximise the performance of this project in a really profitable way and create a physical example of what others can do. Perfect. So part of the challenge is, making sure this thing's going to actually work and be simple in that way. So I thought one of the most exciting things that NMBW did by winning the comp was to cut 5 courtyards into it rather than purely trying to expand into it. So by winter, this thing fully shuts down everything about it is imperfect. So it's not perfect passive house, but to be quick and simple, it's roughly passive house performance by winter. By summer, we can fully open it up and allow it to breathe. The gardens also provide natural cooling for that process. It's basically, for me, walking people through this space, I have all kinds of developers, architects, the CFMEU have become friends with, to be able to show them all of these components that are basically what we mean when we're talking about retrofitting 40,000 commercial buildings. That's personally something that I'm really passionate about. It's less talk, more action. The performance of it is also really important. We spent ages, and it was a very lovely integrated process of trying to actually do it back and forth rather than we joke around about some of this post-rationalisation that happens about justifying design. This design was worked out together. In comparison to a conventional office building, this is kind of radical. It's 50% reduction in energy consumption. This performance is getting there, but not quite perfect at the moment. And there's a few reasons for that I can go into if you want. But in effect, it started off using a bit more power than we'd estimated, and it started off exporting a little bit less solar than we'd estimated. But in closing, to me, it's sort of really, I'm the tenant there, actually. So we were the first tenants to move in, and it's, in a time when I find nobody really wants to be in an office and everyone's finding it really hard to get people to an office. My team all live north side and they love riding to Richmond to be in this space because they all want to be there, basically. So it feels great, and I'll wrap up, shall I?